What up, what up, what up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis T. I'm recording remote tonight from my real live medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. But we're not talking medicine, we're talking football. We're talking the New England Patriots. And joining me as always is the CEO of Hedge Better, Justin Fine. Justin, we got a great episode planned for tonight. We're going to go through all the debacle that was this game in Foxborough on Sunday. We're going to do some more around the league stuff. Matty Prisco is going to join us again about a half hour in and give us some more picks and maybe take some medicine and take a few victory laps with us. But let's just get into it, man. How's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. It was, you know what? It was an interesting week of football. I mean, that was by far, I think, one of the most frustrating games I think we've watched in a while from this Patriots team. And I think we got a lot to cover because there's definitely a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there is a lot to talk about. And like, I have so much to say about that game on Sunday because it was an entertaining game. It was an interesting game. It was a fun game to be at. And there was a different vibe. But before we even get into the game, Justin, can I just say, and like, I know, I'm a doctor, I'm a man of science, and I'm supposed to be a man of science. I am a man of science, but I don't possibly for one second think that our tiny human brains could possibly fathom or perceive all of reality around this.
Right.
And the reason I bring that up is because I am a little superstitious in some ways. And I want to say, just start off, burn those damn red uniforms. I'm so done with those red uniforms. I just feel like they bring us back. They bring the energy back to like a terrible era in Patriots football. And I know they're cool. Fine. I like the shirts. I like the gear. It's retro. It's fun. I don't want to see them on the field again.
It's funny you say that because like I do love those uniforms, and there is something about seeing them out there, with the end zones changed and the new uniform in the old school uniforms, and it really does kind of get you a little hyped up in make you nostalgic. But you're right; it never seems to work out for us when they're wearing those. And maybe there's a little, to take it back to the whole science perspective, right? Maybe there's a little, that's rooted in the reality of the fact that they just started bringing those uniforms back after Brady left, and we were entering our total crap storm in rebuild phase. So all of our recent memories is kind of with this team, kind of blowing it, for lack of a better term. But yeah, it was a tough game, and it was like you said, it was an entertaining game to watch, but it was a tough game for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. And if they're not going to burn the uniforms, maybe just put them in storage until the team's actually good again. Because I just feel like if we're going retro for anything, we need all the good energy we can get now as Patriots fans.
Yeah.
Like let's get the uniforms out from like 2004 and 5 if we want to do a throwback.
Or even the royal blue ones. The royal blue, you know what I mean? Like the early 2000s,
late 90s,
late
ones,
90s, early 2000s. Yeah,
100%.
Totally. But yeah, no, I think at some point too, they're debuting what is it? The nor'easter uniforms.
I like those. I love those. Those look cool.
I like those. Yeah, I'm ready for those. Bring those ones.
I saw a ton of those jerseys, by the way, at Gillette on Sunday. All right, let's get into this game, Justin. I'm going to kick it off with this. I got so many mixed feelings about this game. I really don't know, and maybe I don't have to pick. Like, should I be furious that they pissed this game away, or should I be thrilled that they look like they were the better team for the majority of this game? The reality is, they did look like the better team. I felt like they were the better team, but you don't win many games in this league that you turn the ball over 5 times. You don't win many games in this league where you give up 5 sacks. You don't win many games in this league where you turn the ball over twice inside the 5-yard line. It just doesn't happen. They're a sloppy team. They have 6 turnovers in 3 games this year, 27 penalties, 1 win, which is the same what they had last year at this time, I might point out. It feels different. It feels better, but we're both done with moral victories.
Yeah.
I can't shake the feeling that they're cooking something down there, because it feels like they are. But at the end of the day, what a frustrating end result, Justin.
It could have been more frustrating. And I think you hit the nail on the head because, I was going to say, as frustrated as I was with the game and as disappointed as I was with the result, I still when I calmed down and reflected on the game, there was actually a lot of positives that I guess you could take away from it. I mean, I look at the fact that Drake May, when he wasn't getting sacked, he looked really good. Drake May looked good. That was probably one of the better performances we've seen from Drake May. Some of their, Hunter Henry looked pretty good. The defense for the most part looked pretty good. I mean, look, you gave up 21 points, but you can't even put that on the defense, because when you turn the ball over 5 times, eventually the other team is going to find a way to score. You just give them that many opportunities.
Right.
So it's like
Right.
the defense looked pretty good. Drake May looked pretty good. There are a couple isolated guys, like we said, like Hunter Henry, who looked pretty good. Like, I can take away positives from that game and find things to be excited about, because we did look like the better team. And I actually think we are the better team. But it was just so frustrating watching them blow a golden opportunity. And I think what was even, the cherry on top.
This whole thing feels different if they're 2-1.
It feels
and not 1-2,
so
right?
so much different. And you know what I think makes it even more frustrating, the ultimate cherry on top, was the fact that it was old ways of losing and old habits that bit us in the butt, right? It wasn't like new things that happened. Ramondre Stevenson fumbling. Okay.
Yep.
That's something that's been a problem for years. We have been talking about that for years. Every Patriots fan knows that. That is a perennial problem with Ramondre Stevenson. Antonio Gibson, I like the guy, but he was a high draft pick with Washington that was a starting running back that wound up getting cut because he couldn't hold on to the ball. He had a fumbling problem too, right?
I'll do you one better. The day they signed him, we recorded a couple days after that, and you said it at the time. He fumbles a lot.
Exactly, he fumbles.
I think you even specifically said we're signing a guy who fumbles to back up a guy known for fumbling.
Exactly. So I look at that and I say to myself, that's the most frustrating part, is that we're repeating mistakes and falling back into traps that we should have learned from by now and that are totally avoidable.
Yeah, I want to bring up a few things about the game. A couple I think that were like a real take home points from this thing. A couple of them you just hit on. But number one is, what do you do about Ramondre Stevenson? He fumbled 2 times again. This is not an isolated thing for him. This is a trend. Ramondre Stevenson has a fumbling problem. I don't know if you saw, oh my God, the defensive tackle, Casey, the stud, Casey Hayward, defensive tackle for the Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw his comments to Pro Football Focus Talk after the game. But he basically said, we knew Ramondre Stevenson had a fumbling problem going into the game, and we were coached to try and go after the ball.
Yep.
So this is going to become one of those self-fulfilling things. Cam Hayward, not Casey Hayward.
Yep.
This is going to become one of those self-fulfilling things now where Stevenson has a rep around the league and everyone's going to be gunning for him. And it just makes it that much harder for him to recover. I famously said in the preseason that he was going to be cut, and I walked that take back because I knew I was wrong once I saw them get into camp and I saw the first preseason game. But I'll tell you, Justin, I really think they're stuck between a rock and a hard place with Stevenson. He's one of their best players. I don't think even still they can cut him, but I don't see how they can also trust him or give him the ball.
I think you got to cut him at this point. Look, if this was just if this was like a bad stretch that he was going through, all players at all positions have bad stretches. They have bad games. If this was something where, this problem dated back a couple of games or even, 6, 7, 10 games, this is a problem that he has had for years, season after season. It is very clearly a mental thing. Like you said, the league is on notice. I don't see how this gets any better. Like, how do you just flip a switch and fix this? This is a persistent problem. And guess what? At this point, you're 1-2. And like we said, we're not here for more victories. We need to start winning now. I don't think I have the patience to sit there and wait for Ramondre Stevenson to figure it out. It's been years. So I don't know. I
think the margin of error for this team is so small that even just like one turnover, as we saw Sunday, can potentially devastate them. I guess my problem with cutting him, and look, we said this at again, go back to the episode I think we recorded in June when they finished kind of building the roster. And we said at the time, like, they really should have brought in or drafted another running back in addition to Trey Henderson, because, you know, we all knew Stevenson had some of the issues that he's had. This is no surprise. I guess my problem with cutting him right now, Justin, is like, what are you going to if you cut him? Who's there to pick up the slack? You know, the running game has been a huge disappointment already. Henderson really hasn't done anything. Gibson also fumbled on Sunday and also has a history of fumbling problems. And there's no clear like rookie or mid-round draft pick that you can come in and take the load. Look, Patriots fans, I've said for years, they grossly overrate Ramondre Stevenson. He is an above average running back. And I think he is some extent expendable, but he might also be one of their best offensive players. I don't think that's mutually exclusive. And I don't know who else they have. So I think you know, rather than cut him, I say bench him, work with him. And if it keeps happening, then yes, cut him. But I just don't know what they're running to if they just cut him outright, cut him.
You know what I think the Patriots should do? I mean, look, and this would be a whole different story if they didn't have somebody like a Travion Henderson, right? That is as promising as he is. I think you say, hey, look, it might be a little sooner than we planned, but Travion Henderson is our lead back now. And just like we've talked about how there's a plethora of, you know, guys like veteran kickers that are out there that you can go get to be reliable, right? That can come in and be serviceable. There are a bunch of veteran running backs that are out there that are in a second, third string, you know, just taking space up at a depth chart, even practice squads, guys that can come in here and just be serviceable, that can spell Travion Henderson for a down or two, for a couple plays. I mean, not only that, but there's a couple guys you could go out there and trade for. You could go out and trade for like an Alvin Kamara, right? Like there's options. Like you have options. You have the money. I guarantee you the Saints would get rid of Kamara for a second or a third round pick, probably a third round pick. Like, you have options. I think you elevate Travion Henderson, you go try to trade for a depth piece or even another starter like a Kamara, but you just can't keep rolling with this guy and think that things are going to get fixed. And I'll tell you what, even if things do temporarily get fixed, that's going to become a problem again. You mean to tell me if this Patriots team is somehow able to sneak into a wild card spot, you're going to feel comfortable in a big moment, in a big game, giving Ramondre Stevenson the ball? I guarantee you that's not the last fumble or the last game where he has a series of fumbles that bite us in the butt. So I think it's a Band-Aid. I think you got to rip it off.
You know, I'm not saying you're wrong. I personally... I would personally take a more moderate approach. I would bench him. I would probably make him inactive this week, and I would see how it went. I would see if Gibson can hold on to the ball himself, because that's been an issue for him in the past. I would see if Henderson is ready to be a starting back, because really surprisingly, Travion Henderson has not to this point looked like he's actually ready to be an NFL running back, which is crazy because he looked so good in the preseason, and it just hasn't really bore any fruit so far this year. But I would bench him, make him inactive. I would sign someone else, like you just said. Maybe you find someone off a practice squad. Maybe it's a veteran. Bring in another body and sort of prepare for maybe cutting him if it keeps going this way. But I don't know if I'm ready to cut the cord yet. I really don't. But I agree with everything you're saying. Like, you know, it's getting to the point where you really can't trust this guy.
You can't. And look, Travion Henderson maybe hasn't looked like he's looked in the preseason yet. But the one thing I'll say for him is going back to his entire Ohio State career, 0 fumbles, right? So the guy, the kid can hold on to the ball, fumbles. Right? He never fumbles, and he hasn't fumbled yet in the NFL. So I at least say, okay, if the ball's in that kid's hands, it's secure. The preseason Travion will find its way onto the field at some point this season as he gets more comfortable, as he kind of grows and continues to adjust to the NFL. But I at least know when I give him the ball, it's not going to wind up in the defense's hands.
I hope so, because like I've really been surprised at just how non-elusive a runner he's been in the first 3 games. Like I don't feel like he's shown any kind of like speed or escapability or ability to shake tackles or anything. And in the preseason, he looks so good at all that stuff. So like I'm really surprised at just like how much of a dud he's been through 3 games. But I mean, I agree with you. You know, he probably should be the starting back this week against Carolina. I'll say that. I do agree with that.
And it would be a perfect opportunity because you give him a nice soft landing against, a bottom of the barrel NFL defense. He'd get an opportunity to come in. He could get his feet wet. It's a game that the Patriots should win against, like we said, a weak defense, and he'd get the opportunity to build some momentum. So, yeah, I'd be really curious to see what happens this weekend. And I agree. I think at the very least, if you don't sit Ramondre, he's got to be cut. You can't put him back out there this weekend.
All right, let's talk about another guy that I do think they should think about cutting, and that's Pop Douglas. I am so tired of hearing from Patriots fans about Pop Douglas. This is a guy that I think was a sixth or seventh round pick, and he was a sixth or seventh round pick for a reason. And most sixth or seventh round picks aren't that good, and Pop Douglas is not that good. This guy has had a lot of opportunities to show that what he can do on the field, and it really hasn't borne out. He's a preseason hero, he's a training camp hero, but he's not a real NFL wide receiver. He's not a good receiver in the NFL. And I'm sorry, the mistake he made at the end of the game, and you may have a different opinion of it than I do, but I thought that was just inexcusable. You have to put your shoulder down, know where you are on the field, and get that first down. I think he had, I would say, at least a 75% chance of getting that first down if he just went forward. Instead, he tried to do some ridiculous dance thing, and he got taken down and lost a yard in a spot that really, was just an unacceptable mistake, I think, to make.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was maybe just a lack of situational awareness. One thing I would want to go back and watch again is, at the time of the throw, because the defender was closing in on him very quickly, right? The defender was right on him. And so
right on him.
What I'm wondering is maybe if you remember, I can't remember off the top of my head, where was his momentum going, right? Because if his momentum was coming back towards the line of scrimmage, then it would have been very tough for him to, put his shoulder down against a defender who was charging at him and fall forward. So maybe he was thinking that was his only option. But if he was catching the ball moving forward and he had that forward momentum, then it's inexcusable. So I do think that's actually maybe a small caveat that
it was the latter. He was catching the ball going forward.
Okay. So
and
yeah.
And the defender would have had to completely light him up.
Yeah.
To not get the first down. And even then, he still might have got it. It would have depended on the spot. He was right there. You have to pick that up. And at the very least, look, this isn't Conference USA. This isn't Liberty. This is the NFL. You're not going to outdance these guys that often. Put your shoulder down and get the first down. It's simple. And know where you are on the field.
And who was so good at that was somebody like an Edelman, right? Somebody who could catch the ball and just fall forward. Either put their shoulder down or fall forward. That's really what he needed to do. He didn't even need to outpower the defender. He really just needed to catch the ball and fall forward another foot.
Yep.
That's
it. It was very simple, and he didn't do it. What did you think about the play calling before halftime in the Drake May interception on that series before the half when they got the ball? If you remember, Pittsburgh jumped off sides. The Patriots had like first and goal on the 8, and Pittsburgh jumped off sides on the first play. So it was like first and goal at the 3. I said to the guys standing next to me at the game, they should run the ball 4 times here, right? You have all 3 of your timeouts. There's 22 seconds left. Worst run defense in the NFL through 2 games. You run the ball and get it in. They threw it 3 times, ended in a pick. It was a tough series for this offense. Justin, your thoughts on that sequence before the half?
Yeah, I was sitting there watching it with my in-laws and my wife, and I said the same thing too. I didn't really understand the play calling there. Like, that seems to me like a classic Patriots run it up the gut or run it down their throats and try to score on the ground. Like you said, you had the timeouts. You were close enough. I didn't like it. And you know what? It was one of those things too, where it was a perfect situation where you didn't need to put pressure on your young quarterback. Like that was a perfect time to just be conservative with the play calling. And yeah, they muffed it. I don't know if maybe they were scarred from the first fumble. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe that was their thinking, was like they couldn't trust their guy, their power back, their guy to come in. But I bet even Travion, if you gave that ball to Travion 4 times to the 3-yard line, he was scoring.
Or even let Drake May run it, right?
Yeah,
he's super mobile. Use your mobile young quarterback.
Yeah.
I thought that was a missed opportunity. Now I will say, the first down play, I think was it Austin Hooper right at the pylon? May could have stuck that in there. That I thought that was a mistake by May
Henry,
to
it was
pull that
Henry. It
ball
was
down.
Henry. Yeah.
It was Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Hunter Henry.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he was open. So that was a makeable throw.
Yep.
So that was a mistake by May. The interception, look, I thought that May, you could argue, should have thrown it up higher. Sometimes you got to give credit. Cam Hayward is a Pro Bowl player, all pro player for a reason. That was a great play.
It was a very good play. Like you said, I mean, look, if it worked out, we would have been saying it was a great play and, good on the Patriots for trusting Drake May in that situation. But you know what? When it doesn't work out, you sit there and you go, well, they should have been more conservative. They should have ran it 4 straight times. And you know what? I think both are true, right? Like, the defender made a good play. They could have ran the ball. And ultimately that was another big moment. I'm glad you brought that up because we're sitting there, talking about all these fumbles, but that interception in the 3-yard line was equally just as big as any of those fumbles.
It was absolutely just as big. And look, I mean, the guy was open. I didn't think it was a terrible throw. I really think I've heard a lot of people blaming May this week for that, and that's fine. Maybe he takes some responsibility, but I just feel like sometimes you have to give credit to the opponent too. When the opponent makes a great play, and Hayward's a great player.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he deserves credit for that. All right, let's talk about the first series after the half, because that's another one, right? Where we're sitting here and saying, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. The Steelers take the ball at halftime, and Robert Spillane has a terrific interception. He had a great game, by the way, Robert Spillane. We'll get to him in a second, this defense. Takes it back to the 6 or 7 yard line, and they run the ball. I think this was Ramondre Stevenson's second fumble on this series. Running it in from the 3 yard line, Stevenson takes a hit and gets blown up and coughs the ball up at the goal line. I thought that was a real swing series in this game. Michael Onwenu got absolutely blown up on that play. And I know Stevenson has to hold the ball. I'm not absolving him from responsibility, but I thought Onwenu had a tough game as well. And I just worry, Justin, about this offensive line play.
Well, I mean, look, I get it. He got blown up on the play, but I mean, Stevenson crossed the goal line. He just didn't have the ball. You know what I mean? So he should have scored.
Yep.
And so, I get it, but, yeah, that to me was, when that was when I put my hands in my head and I just said to myself, it just feels like something is going to prevent us from winning this game. We're not meant to win this game, because at that point, after the first Ramondre Stevenson fumble, after the defense had settled in, after Pittsburgh's first drive, after Drake May had thrown that interception at the half, it just seemed like we had too many chances to reverse things in our favor. And once we fumbled that ball, I said to myself, I just don't see any way that you can win after, because eventually Pittsburgh's going to score. Eventually things aren't going to go your way.
100%.
You know what I mean? So,
well, let's talk about that, because you're bringing up a great subject, which is the defense. I mean, that was one of the bright spots from this game. The defense played really well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a very bright spot. I mean, after that first drive, Pittsburgh comes out, marches down the field. I said to myself, wow, this could be a long day. Yeah. After that defense settled in very nicely. And again, the 21 points is so misleading, because when you have 5 turnovers and you give Aaron Rodgers and any offense really that many cracks at it, eventually, they're going to break through. So the 21 points is very misleading. I was pretty satisfied with that defense. Like you said,
it's a miracle they only gave up 21 points.
Exactly.
When you give up 5 turnovers like that, this defense came out and it was a very slow start.
Yep.
Gave up scores on the first 2 possessions.
Yep.
And then they really tightened up. And it really looked like Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh was just completely stymied, had no answers, couldn't do anything until that last drive.
Exactly. And look at that. By the time that last drive came, I wouldn't be shocked if that team the defense was just so deflated. I mean, how many times can they stop that offense and give the Patriots the ball back, only for them to give it right back? I think it was just, I think at that point, all the wins were out of the sails. I think that team was just so deflated. By the time that last Steelers drive came around, that I don't even blame the defense, to be honest.
Yeah, and true, fair, but there was also a terrible pass interference call on that last drive. Because
That
I don't think if Pittsburgh doesn't get that call, they don't score on that
that
drive.
was awful. I mean, that look, it was a pass interference, but that ball was so far out of bounds and uncatchable that I
Yeah.
think it's kind of an egregious call, like you said. But yeah, but I mean, you know what? Look, I can't hang my head on that penalty because yes, it was a bad call, but the Patriots had so many other opportunities to capitalize and win that game, and they just blew it every time.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is really important. If the Patriots have Christian Gonzalez, do you think they win that game?
If I'm being honest, no, I don't, because I'd like I know like the obvious answer is to say yes, but Christian Gonzalez doesn't stop, you know, what is it, 2 picks and 3 fumbles, right?
Yep.
Like
No,
he's
one pick and four
sorry,
fumbles.
wait,
Those
one pick and 4
fumbles.
fumbles, right? So Christian Gonzalez doesn't secure the ball, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think our defense played really well. It's easy to say that he could have gone out there and maybe they would have given up, less points, but ultimately what killed us was not our defense. It had nothing to do with Christian Gonzalez.
I mean, you're not wrong because the fundamental problem with this game was absolutely not the defense. Generally, they played more than well enough to win this game. But
Right.
that said, I do disagree because I do think that if they have Christian Gonzalez, they win this game. And let's not forget, Justin, that his replacement in this game, Alex Austin, got benched, right? And
Mhm.
and then Marcus Jones gave up that go-ahead touchdown,
Yeah.
covering their
Calvin
Austin, number
Calvin
19
Austin,
there.
yeah.
Right on that last touchdown.
Yeah.
I can't help but think Christian Gonzalez is able to cover that route. So I do feel like, yes, if Christian Gonzalez was healthy, they win this game. Even if he played 20 or 30 snaps, I think they win this game.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, I get it. That is probably the correct answer, right? I especially too, like, you play it out. Carlton Davis isn't on DK Metcalf for that pass interference call, right? It's Christian
Yep.
Gonzalez, and then maybe that never happens. So snowball effect. Yeah, they probably do wind up winning, but yeah, I guess my point is that at no point during that game was I sitting there going, "Oh, if only they had Christian Gonzalez, we'd win this
That's
game."
fair. That's
You know what
fair.
I mean?
I hope we see him this week against Carolina.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, I hope we do, but if there's any possibility of like him not being at 100%, like I'd be okay with sitting him. Like I know Carolina came out and absolutely pants the Falcons last week, which I don't think anybody saw. I had the Falcons in a survivor pool. Like I picked up the Falcons defense in all my fantasy leagues. I didn't see that coming whatsoever,
Right.
but I'd be shocked if the Patriots have a tough time with Carolina.
I hope you're right. Couple more things I want to hit on before we move to around the league. A couple other things. Vrabel versus Mayo. Let's talk about this for a second, right? We expected this operation to be I don't know, tighter operation, a smoother operation, a well-run ship, if you will. Through 3 weeks, they've been anything but that. And I saw a graphic on social media. It went around. I saw it in a couple places this week that basically said this year versus last year, they had 6 turnovers this year versus 1 last year at this point. They had 27 penalties this year versus something like 9 last year. And their record is the same, 1-2.
Yeah.
So we are two people that pissed and moaned about Gerard Mayo from the second he took the job. And here we are, 3 weeks, very small sample size, into the Mike Vrabel era. It really has looked not only not better, if you're being honest, like it's looked less buttoned up with Vrabel than it did with Mayo.
Yeah, it's disheartening. I think we had said that, no matter what happens, this Patriots team should be a tougher, more disciplined team this year, and they definitely haven't been the more disciplined team. And is it? But let me ask you this: is it a reflection of Vrabel, or is it a reflection of the fact that like they just got some guys out there that are trying to punch above their weight class?
I'm going to explain it this way, and this is a little optimistic, but this is how I'm going to explain it. I just think it was such a mess. And it's been such a mess here. The last few years of Bill Belichick, total mess. Last year with Gerard Mayo, total mess. You're 3 games into the Mike Vrabel program. And my hope is that Vrabel is still very much in the process of cleaning up the mess. And that hopefully this will tighten up. Because let's not forget, he was handed a mess. This franchise, this organization was an absolute shambles the last 3 years, 4 years. So you have to hope, if you're a Patriots fan, that Vrabel is in the process of like putting this all together and really fixing the mess. But if they still look like this in week 12 or week 13, I mean, I think you can legitimately start to have like buyer's remorse for Vrabel and start to question, what's going on here.
Yeah, but you know what? I agree. I just to play a little devil's advocate, though, going back even as recently as last week, I think we both said, you know, that was the type of game where the Patriots showed toughness and resilience and won.
Yep,
In years past, they 100% are losing that game,
that's
right?
true.
And so, I think that's a little bit of the Mike Vrabel effect. I mean, even just seeing that defense this week against Pittsburgh, I mean, you lose. Yeah, they scored 21 points, but as we said, the defense played really well. That's not an accurate reflection of them. And that was probably one of the better defensive performances I've seen out of this Patriots team in a long time, right? So
And if you're being honest, like, look, the statistics are damning. The statistics look worse, but use your eye test. Doesn't it look a lot better? Doesn't it
it
feel a
does.
lot better? Doesn't it
It
feel like they're
does.
building something now? So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, if Vrabel and this team is still doing this later in the end of this year, then I think you could be concerned.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm going to spin it positive and just say, this is still very much a work in progress. Where Vrabel is just laying the foundation, I think, of
Agreed.
the program he's building, and there was no foundation here, so he's building from scratch.
Yep.
All right, before we move to around the league, I do want to just take a few quick minutes to talk about Drake May, because we haven't talked about him really very much on this podcast, which is saying something. And I just want to share some stats with you that I found online because I think they're really interesting. Drake May right now, among all NFL quarterbacks, is tied for 4th in passing touchdowns. He's tied for 5th in passing yards. He's tied for 3rd in catchable throw rate. He's 2nd in completion rate. He's 2nd in adjusted completion rate. And he's 1st in completion over expectation rate, the advanced stat metric. He's 9th overall in the NFL right now in quarterback rating. I've watched this team play 6 halves of football. 5 of those 6 halves, I sat there and said Drake May was the best player on the field. Now, he has a problem, which is at the end of these games, he's trying to do way too much, and it's burned him. It burned him a few times last year, and it killed him yesterday, because after everything we've talked about for the last half hour, if he doesn't fumble, if he just throws that damn ball away, 1st and 10 at the 33-yard line, they still win this game.
I agree.
So he has to work that habit up. But at least this guy has his ceiling is through the roof. And he's showing that. A lot of these guys, I could go through names of quarterbacks drafted in the first round over the last 5 years, and you get a year or two look at them. And I know Matt's on here right now. And like, I could go throw Trey Lance, I could throw Mac Jones. You wanted Justin Fields, you could look at Bryce Young. You get a year or two look at some of these guys, and you realize this guy has a low ceiling. You can't say that about Drake May. He has a high ceiling. The turnovers aren't going to end. It's going to continue because he's only played 15 games. But my God, this guy has a ton of potential, Justin.
He does. And look, I know this is kind of like the overplayed archetype that we've been hearing, but it is very Josh Allen-esque, right? Like it is like he's clearly taking a step in his second year. I think we're seeing a guy who not only has raw talent and raw athleticism, but is improving, right? And I think we're seeing a kid that's becoming a little bit more confident. And I think he's struggling with some of the same things that I think Josh Allen did early in his career, where his confidence, his growing confidence and his clear talent and ability still needs to be molded and perfected, and I think refined, right? I think that's a good word for it. He still needs to refine himself a little bit, cut down on some of the turnovers and the mistakes. But I do love what I see from Drake May. I think we both said we needed to see a jump in year 2, and we're only 3 games in, and I think we've already seen a clear jump. So I'm excited to see where he can be at the end of the year.
if he's still doing these same things at the end of games in like 2 years, then I think that
Right.
that's a huge problem. But right now, he's only started 15 games, and the playmaking abilities through the roof. And oh, by the way, and I just feel like this has to be mentioned. It's less of a disaster this year. Clearly, I mean, on the statistics, maybe you don't say that, but with your eyes, it's less of a disaster this year. There's still nothing around him. Like they're leading. He's their leading rusher. Okay, their leading receiver is Hunter Henry with 150 yards. I think St. Brown had that in one game last week. So there are still a lot of holes on this offense. So I just think you have to take what he's doing in the context of that as well.
Totally agree. Yeah, he's working with what he's got, and again, even his offensive line is still to be desired in some respects. So yeah, I agree. He's doing what he can with what he's got, and I like what I see. He's filling me with confidence, and like you said, if these problems don't start to go away in the future, then it's one thing. But you know what? I can't really blame him right now.
Yeah,
he's not the problem in this organization right now.
Not only is he not the problem, right. I mean, he has really, I think, at times made plays that have elevated them. It just needs to be a little more consistent, and he has to stop. I can live with a pick now and then. He has to stop fumbling. That's what he really has. He has to stop fumbling so much. That is the worst thing about his game. All right, we ready to move around the league, Justin?
Let's do it.
All right, we're bringing in Matty P. I call him Matty Picks, Matty Prisco from the Bettors In Law podcast. Matty Picks, what is going on, dude? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Good.
Awesome. Listen, I'm going to start with this, man. My $500. It took a little bit of a hit this week, buddy. It took a little bit of a hit. And I said I was prophetic because I called it on the podcast last week. I said when you're hot and then you get that one bad beat, and then everything falls apart, right? Yeah. That's exactly what happened. I had the Rams with 3.5 points in that game in Philadelphia. That has to be one of the toughest beats in recent NFL memory.
It's so bad. It's so bad. As soon as the kick was blocked, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to pick this up and go. And he did. And I'm like, I had no money on that game. And I'm glad I stayed away because I would have been on the Rams if any side. And God, that is as bad of a bet as you can have. We had a few of them, right? The Jets coming back, blocking that kick. That was for a cover, right? They ended up losing, but still covered the game. I mean, just a couple of really bad ones, but nothing topping that Rams-Eagles game. That was pain. 20. What were they up? 26-7 or something.
26
below that, and they blew that.
And missing the kick is one thing, fine.
Yeah.
Getting the kick block is another thing, fine. But getting the kick block and having the guy pick it up and go for a touchdown, like that just very rarely happens.
It doesn't happen. It was a second block field goal of the day.
Yeah.
Like just insane. It's just insane. The Eagles have some type of horseshoe up their ass. I'll tell you, they just win these games.
Yep.
Man, they are. It's just wild how that happened.
I mean, look, go around the league. There was a bunch of those. I mean, the Browns coming back in the final couple of minutes and beating the Packers. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card, right? That was absolutely wild. I mean, the Falcons, who I thought coming out of week 2 looked like one of the more surprising and better teams in the NFC, getting routed 30-0 by the Carolina Panthers.
That insane.
That was insane. I mean, even going back to Thursday Night Football, and I'll take some medicine on this one in advance, but the fact that the Dolphins were able to keep pace with the Bills for most of that game, like there was a lot this week that I didn't see coming personally.
Yeah, I'm with you, Justin. I was on the Bills Thursday night. I came across a stat that Thursday Night Football favorites of 10 or more were 21-0 ATS. 21-0.
There you go.
Wow.
Yep.
21-1 now.
Yep. Yeah.
Buffalo.
Exactly.
Very
I mean, Miami, we talked a lot about this last week, and look, Miami, they look like a team that was fighting for their coach. I mean, say what you will about the guy, but they did not look like a team that quit. And Tua doesn't throw that pick. I mean, Miami was not only in position to cover, they were in position to outright win that game.
Yeah.
If that interception doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. But yeah, it was definitely, I mean, look, from a fan's perspective, I think you got some good games, some good finishes, but yeah, I mean, from a betting perspective, I mean, good luck. I think it was tough to make money this past week.
Well, let's take a little look back, Matt.
Yeah.
Last week, funny little thing. I think your pick of the week was the Denver, who lost, but I think it really depended on like what you got the line at, whether you covered or not. Because I actually took Denver, but I had 4 points, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and so I got the cover. Whereas I think a lot of people only got 2.5 and took a loss on that.
Yeah, I pushed. I was at 3, so I ended up pushing. But talk about another game. That team should have won that game, winning the whole second half.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Justin Herbert, I mean, he's playing out of his mind. This is the guy that we've been waiting to see, and he's finally stringing it together. I'm happy to see it for him because I've always been a fan of him. But man, that last drive, they were hitting him, and he's making throws on the run, getting hit. That touchdown
throw of the year,
Keenan Allen
really,
to take the lead. I'm like, what do you do? What do
Yeah.
you do? I mean, that was just a great play. And the Chargers ended up winning that game by 3. But you're right. Points matter. This is why we talk about this stuff. I try to get on and we do our podcast early in the week. We talk about line moves. You'll see today, like I've only bet one thing so far. I'm looking at teams where I think lines can move. So I'm just kind of waiting on some of this stuff right now. But yeah, what a game that was.
And then one more last week I want to ask you about before we get your picks for this week. Your 49ers, Matt. Your San Francisco 49ers. Welcome to the Mac Jones era. And, I know that he did throw a bad pick in the second half of that game, but I'm sorry. Like, we never saw, hardly ever, if ever, that kind of resiliency for Mac Jones at any point in his time in New England.
I actually couldn't believe it. It was the full Mac Jones experience, though, right? Like, it was just it was a tough game, right? Good defensive battle, and offense was ugly, not there at times. And then what happens, right? The safety, I'm like, that's it. Defense stepped up again, got another hold, gave him a chance, and then all of a sudden Mac turned into like what we always hoped he would be, right? So he ended up driving him down the field. I'm not sure. I know they're getting a lot of credit for the call, the screen pass. I'm not sure what Arizona was doing. He let Christian McCaffrey beat you, but that was something.
Yeah, I mean, even that pass to Ricky Pearsall was kind of a dime. Now, I will say, just from having watched him for 3 or 4 years, that pass to Ricky Pearsall, notice it came on the near side of the field, right? And that's Mac Jones's Achilles heel. Like, he can't throw. I don't think he has the arm strength to throw to the far side. So watch for that as you watch him, because I wonder, as defenses again reacquaint themselves with him, at what point will they begin to take away those near side throws? But that throw to Pearsall was a dime in a key spot.
It's a crazy play call. 4th and 2. That's Kyle Shanahan in his bag, just saying we can get an advantage here. I didn't expect. I don't think anybody in the world thought that was coming. And Pearsall made an insane catch too. That was just a great play.
Yeah. I mean, how often does the guy, the ball's right there and on the way down it falls out, or he doesn't survive the ground? I mean, just a great catch.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great play call. Good ball. Put it where only he could get it. Pearsall made a great play. As a Niners fan, it was good. I bet them on the money line, so I was happy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Another one where we talk about like numbers matter. A lot of people lost on the 1.5.
So I took the L on that one because I got them at the 1.5. I mean, how often does that 1 point freaking matter? But that's what I'm saying. Once that tide turns and you have that bad beat, it's like everything just falls apart.
That's exactly what happens. You're right. It's just like the world can't stop crumbling when you're falling down and you have those brutal beats. It's like, what's next? I know a guy that was on the Eagles, the Pats, the Bucks, the Pats, and
the Rams,
the Rams and the Niners. All 4 of them.
That's a tough week.
A tough day.
That's a tough week.
That's a tough day.
So tell us who you like this week coming up. Give us your 3 best picks for the week ahead.
All right. Like I said, I've only bet one so far because I think we're going to get some more line movement, so I'll call it out. I'll start with the one I did bet, and that's today. I took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 3.5 at home against the Eagles. Look, both of these teams could be 0-3, and they're both sitting 3-0. Both teams have played really close games. Fourth quarter, doing what it takes to win these games. And I know the Bucs are probably going to be without Mike Evans this week, is what it looks like. They're not ruling him out yet, but I don't expect him to play. So I made this bet without the expectation of Evans. But where they are going to get back is Tristan Wirfs, which is absolutely huge because they need him back on that offensive line so Baker doesn't get killed in this game. Because if he wasn't back, then I'd have some problems. I wouldn't be able to bet Tampa. They need this guy. They've had O-line injuries, and Philly's not the team to mess around with when it comes to that. They're also most likely getting Chris Godwin back. We like what we've seen out of Emeka Ibuka, the rookie from Ohio State's playing really well with Baker, and it really doesn't matter. Baker, this guy, we've seen Evans and Godwin go down at the same time in the past when they didn't have Ibuka, and the guy just shows up and delivers. He just throws it all over everyone. And what's the weakness of the Eagles? It's their secondary. And on top of that, they lost their second best corner, their third best corner last week. Now they're playing with guys that should be on the practice squad out there against a guy that's just a true gunslinger. I'm taking my shot. Once this went north of 3 and hit 3.5, Tampa's played Philly pretty well over the years, and down in Tampa, they got them the last 2 times. It's something about going down in that heat. I mean, we see it, right? The Pats go down to Miami, they struggle, right? And now you're giving me 3.5 in a coin flip game. To me, I think it's a field goal game either way. So if I'm getting 3.5, I'm on the Bucks. That is one that I have played so far. So that one.
To beat the Eagles, you really need to have good defensive line play.
Yeah.
I think that I really do. Like teams that can't stop the run have absolutely no prayer against that team. So I like that Tampa Bay defense, that defensive line with Vita Vea in the middle. I mean, I think that they're the kind of team that maybe could put up some resistance to that Philadelphia running game.
6th in the league right now, stopping the run at just 84 yards a game. For the Tampa D. So that is a key area where I like them. You have to be able to stop the run against this Eagles team. If you can do that, it stops Hurts from opening up that passing game, which is what we saw last week against the Rams. They started to get that going. And if they get that going, forget it. They're tough.
Awesome. What else?
All right, another couple games I'm looking at. I'll jump to the 4 o'clock slate. Probably the game of the day, at least on paper, or it was supposed to be the game of the day. But now we're all like, I don't know, is it? Because one of these teams is going to be 1-3 at the end of it. And I'm talking about Baltimore at Kansas City.
Crazy.
And let me just say that this is a trap line of the week. This opens the look ahead on this game was Ravens -2.5. Then the Ravens play last night, no movement at all. Ravens -2.5 again. This is just welcoming Raven money, and they're taking it. The books are taking Baltimore money, and the line's not moving. And something tells me that, when you look at this Baltimore team, one thing that I've seen, they are very flawed on defense. I mean, if you guys watched the game last night, I was on the Ravens, and I'll tell you what, I was very disappointed in what I was seeing from that defense. I think they said on the broadcast they hadn't given up a 90-yard plus touchdown since 1991. The Lions scored from 95 yards and 98 yards in the same game. So they are struggling. They couldn't stop the run at all. They ran right down their throat. And a big part of that game that I liked for the Ravens was the Lions offensive line. 2 starters missing from their O-line. Didn't matter. Ran right down their throat. I actually could not believe what I was watching. On top of it, the Ravens O-line looked terrible. The Lions are getting pressure on every play. They made Lamar uncomfortable. For a high-scoring game, the Lions deep actually played really, really well in that game, and the game was closer than the box score says. Now, Kansas City, Sunday Night Football, almost unwatchable football game, but I was on Kansas City. I talked about that last week on the show. They weren't going 0-3. I just refused to believe it, and I know they didn't look good. I know it was disgusting game, disgusting offense, and they are dying for playmakers. I thought Worthy was coming back last week. They held him out. I think they bring him back this week. Again, early reports of that they're going to try to get him to go. I think he does go in this one. They need him. But I do think that he brings an element to that offense that can really open things up. His speed going across the field, down the field, just going to open things up for guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, who are more possession receivers, not speed. They need speed on that offense. They need a playmaker. Even 50% Xavier Worthy in this game can open things up. At the end of the day, I don't know that the Ravens could even stop Isaiah Pacheco right now, the way I watch them play. This game's in Kansas City, a place that Baltimore just simply can't win. They feel like they're snake bitten. Every year you think Baltimore's going to get it. And like I said, the books are taking money. And when the books take money and they don't move the line, that's when I get involved. So I'm waiting to see if I can get a 3. I'm waiting to see if I get a 3. If I can get a 3, I will hammer that spot. So I'm still comfortable at 2.5 or even 2. I make the game a pick 'em. I'll take Kansas City in this one, no matter what the line is, but I'm waiting to see if I can get the 3 because I think it's eventually going to come.
Plus 130 on the money line too, Kansas City, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I watched the game last night, and this Ravens team, I think they clearly have a problem, closing out big games, right? But they also have a problem, I think, going up against high powered offenses. Like you said, like this defense, who on paper looks really good, um, is in reality, they have a lot of trouble. They have a lot of trouble with good quarterbacks in weapons. And I mean, even just historically, the Chiefs have like owned this team, right? Like the Chiefs have had the Ravens number for a while. So yeah, I kind of love that, honestly.
We saw Buffalo, right? The
Yeah.
opening night, come back and beat them.
Yeah.
They shut down Cleveland. Cleveland can't move the ball at all. Their defense is phenomenal, but their offense is disgusting. So credit that one. And then the Lions. And I think that the Chiefs are not as bad as Cleveland on offense.
Right.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, that's enough to be better than Cleveland 100%. On offense. And then they're not obviously Buffalo or Detroit. So, like, do I expect them to come out and put up 35? No, but I also don't expect the Ravens to be able to do what they do on offense. The Chiefs know how to play them. They've played them long enough. They can slow down the Ravens. I think this is a gross game again, but I like the Chiefs in this one.
All right, that's a good pick. Give us one more.
All right, one more, which one I'm leaning to, probably one of my favorite bets of the week. And it might be end up being my best bet on my show, but we'll see what happens from now until around noon tomorrow. I like the Rams a lot in this spot. They're hosting the Colts at home. They're minus 3.5. The Colts look great. I get it. I was wrong about the Colts preseason. I thought they'd be terrible. Then they start Daniel Jones. I'm like, this is going to be interesting to watch. Daniel Jones played great. I'm not taking anything away from the Colts here, but I do have to say they beat up on a really, really bad Miami team. They should have lost to Denver in week 2, and then they beat up on a bad Tennessee team.
Yep.
This is a true road test for the Colts.
This is a buy low, sell high opportunity.
100%. What's this line if the Rams
3.5 spread? That's a number they put out there. When they're begging you to take points, right?
Yes.
Take those 3.5, take that field goal, and that makes my antennas go up.
Yep, exactly. And this is another spot that I'm just waiting. If they get a 3, it's going to be my favorite bet of the week. No question. If this goes down to 3, it was 4.5. It opened 4.5. They're taking Indy money. And I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to take the Rams. The Rams are going to be really mad after losing that game. They need this game. They have a Thursday night look ahead against the Niners, a game they can't slip up on against the Colts right now to lose 2 in a row going into that Niners game. When I look at the Rams too, it really is a great spot for them. As bad as that loss was for them, that's just a good team recovers from that. If you're a bad team, that's a tough loss to get over. Think about like Chicago losing on the Hail Mary last year against the Commanders, and then their season just plummeted. I think they lost like 8 or 9 in a row after that. They just could not recover from that type of loss. The Rams are a very good team, like one of the top teams in the NFC. So, veteran team, Matt Stafford. This is the best offense the Colts have faced by far, not even close. And, Denver, they did nice work against Denver, but that was on the fast track in the Dome. The Rams have a very good defense. Pass rush is going to get after Daniel Jones in this game. The key to this game to me is, can Jonathan Taylor keep up what he's doing? He's been a monster, and he's opening up everything for Daniel Jones and what they're doing on offense. I think the Rams are going to key in on slowing him down because they've seen this plot before. When they play good teams, they try to stop the run. They tried to take out Saquon last week. They did a pretty good job of it. Over the years, they've tried to stop McCaffrey. They do a pretty good job of it. So when they focus on the run and you're going to make Daniel Jones beat you on the road outside in the grass, I'm not there yet. I think the Rams win this game closer to a touchdown than I do the 3.5.
Yeah, I like it. And I think that, look, the Colts aren't going 17-0. So,
no.
Right.
And that's the thing, like, and we go through this every year where, like, we get these things in our head about, this team's 3-0, this team's 6-0. And the reality is, look, they're an 11-6 team or something. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to lose some games. And this looks, going on the road, West Coast, this looks like a game the Colts lose. I would be a little concerned about taking the Rams after really a heartbreaking loss last week in Philadelphia, and can they emotionally recover from that? But I think the one thing you have to consider on that too is they do have Sean McVay as their coach. He's a great coach and he knows what he's doing. So, like, it's not like they got a rookie head coach that doesn't know how to manage a locker room. And I think that does factor in situations like this.
100% agree. That's where I was going with the veteran team. Obviously, McVay's phenomenal coach. They'll be ready for this game. They know the Colts are 3-0. They know that's happening. They don't have any time for a letdown game. Their next couple of weeks, they get big game after big game. The Eagles was just the start of it. They can't go on. They can't keep taking these losses. So I like the Rams to bounce back in a big way here.
Okay, that's great. And very, very quickly, 30 to 60 seconds. Your 49ers against Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the Mac Jones Bowl. The real Mac Jones versus Mac Jones with long hair and hype. Trevor Lawrence. That's what he is. Look at their career stats. Almost identical players. Give us your quick Cliff Notes version of this play.
I don't think you're going to like my Cliff Notes version. I think Brock Purdy's going to start this game.
All right, fair.
And if he does, this line should be 6. That's
okay.
Trevor Lawrence and this Jags team. I know they're 2-1, could be 3-0, but again, Carolina, Cincinnati, who lost Burrow in that game in the second quarter, and then Houston. Yep. Now the Niners come in, the number 1 passing offense in the league. I think it should be closer to 6 than it should be 3. So the line's telling me it's Mac right now, but I think you're going to hear Purdy. From what I'm hearing in San Francisco, I think Purdy's going to go.
Fair enough. All right, Matt. Well, thanks, man. That's great. We appreciate the picks. Always glad to have you here with us on the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast, and hopefully we'll catch you next week. And before I let you go, do you have any medicine you want to take for anything you threw out there last week?
We can start with what. There was a game I gave that it was terrible. What was it?
Atlanta, Carolina?
Not that one. It wasn't that bad. What did I give you guys last week? I didn't give the Ravens here. I know that. I was talking
Buffalo Dolphins.
Not Buffalo.
That was me. I did Buffalo Dolphins.
I want to say
you hit on the Chicago pick. That was a good one.
The Bears. Yeah, we talked about the Bears. We talked KC. We talked about the Niners. I can't remember if I said money line at that point because I don't know where the line was. I might have said 1.5.
No, you did.
Take the medicine.
I might have done it if you did.
So let's just say I took 1.5. I'll take my medicine there. You too much trust in Mac Jones, Dennis. Your guy. I had too much faith in him that he could cover 1.5, and you had to take that safety.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I know that safety ended up being the difference between the cover and not. Typical Mac Jones, like you said, the full Mac Jones experience. All right, Maddie. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us. Appreciate you, and hope we'll catch you next week. If you want to come back, we'd love to have you back again. We appreciate.
I'll be ready to go, guys. Can't wait for it.
All right,
thank you, guys.
Matt.
Have a good one.
Good luck this week. All right, Justin, that was great.
Another great segment. Yeah, you know what? I like having Matty on. I like that he's becoming a regular. He's got some good picks. Adds a little spice to the pod, you know?
Totally. He has great information. Like he has the stats and the information. I don't know where he comes up with all this stuff, but he's definitely studying and paying attention in a way that I'm not.
For sure.
Which is probably why he might actually win from time to time and I don't.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, look, I think I like a lot of what he said. I do. I'm not going to lie. And maybe I'll save this for my 3 into the future. But you know what? Should we kick off 3 into the future?
Let's before we do that, let's do our victory laps in our medicine.
Our victory laps in our medicine.
So let's start with our medicine. What do you got to take, Justin? Get your medicine ready.
The medicine that I'm going to take, this is, I guess it's more of a long-term play, but I said this was the end of the 49ers, and here they are 3-0 now, about to be 4-0. I got to take my medicine on them, man. This team is, and again, they're winning with Mac Jones. They're winning with injuries. Like they look good. I gotta take my medicine on these 49ers. And actually, you know what? The biggest dose of medicine I got to take probably goes back to the Thursday night game, because I said I'd take the Bills at -24, let alone -12.
Right.
And I just didn't see a world in which the Dolphins are going to be able to compete. And like we alluded to, not only did they compete, but they covered the spread and they almost won the game. So I got to take some medicine on that. I just didn't see that happening.
Yeah, those are two good ones. You know, on the first one, the couple things about the 49ers, the over-under from Vegas was way higher than I think either of us expected at 10.5. But you know, the insight into that was the schedule was really easy. Yeah. And then you look some things that have gone well for them this year. I can think of a couple. One is McCaffrey has been healthy. Two is Ricky Pearsall looks like a first-round pick, which he was, who shot in the chest last year. Literally, you know, he really, and he still caught, I think, more touchdowns, by the way, than Jalen Polk. But he's been good. He's been really good. And then the third thing they've got is that Mac Jones has, by and large, been very good for them, subbing in for Purdy. So, I mean, like, things have gone well for the 49ers, and it looks like they are queued up to if not win that division, at least make the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's in spite of, like we've talked about in the past, Ayuk not healthy yet, Debo traded to Washington, and Kittle ended up on the IR for a couple of weeks with a hamstring. So 3 of their big 4 have essentially missed the season, and they're still finding ways to do it. So I got to give them credit.
Yeah, 100%. All right. I'll take some medicine, actually. It's my turn. And if you've listened to this podcast, that I've sort of been a Dak Prescott fanboy at times in the past. And I've said he's certainly one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. I've said you could win a Super Bowl with him. I've said, he was responsible for some of the good stuff we've seen from Dallas in the last few years. And after watching that debacle in Chicago this weekend, and just kind of the way things have gone for that franchise the last few years, I'm here to take medicine on that take, because I feel like Dak Prescott is showing that he really isn't as good as he looked. When he came into the league, right, he was basically playing on a Pro Bowl team. Like, he had some really good players out there with him. I think he had Jason Witten, Des Bryant, Ezekiel Elliott at one point, if I'm not mistaken. All those guys left.
Top tier O-line. One of the best O-lines in the NFL.
Excellent O-line. Yeah. And what Dak Prescott is showing in the last couple of years is that it was more likely that he was being elevated by them than that he is capable of elevating those around him. Right. And you're seeing it certainly the last few years. So I'm starting to lose faith in Dak Prescott as a true franchise quarterback. So yes, I have to take medicine on that, Justin.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, you're probably going to be without CeeDee Lamb for the next couple of weeks, right? Like, does this team absolutely fall apart? Like, what's going to happen with this offense? The defense already looks like it's in shambles. I know after week 1,
shambles,
like
total shambles.
After week 1, I think we had a little bit of hope, saying, well, they kind of didn't look awful against Philadelphia. Maybe they'll be able to recover this year without Micah. But the last 2 weeks, they have just been absolute trash. They look awful. And now that CeeDee Lamb's gone, coupled with the fact that Dak hasn't looked that good, this team might be, just be totally heading to an epic collapse for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, look how good they made Russell Wilson look 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
I mean, really, like they gave up almost 500 passing yards to Russell freaking Wilson. He looked like the Russell Wilson of 2014. So and it's been pretty much every game that they've done that. So their defense is in shambles, and they're falling apart. While we're on the subject, before we get to our victory laps, I'm not ready to take medicine at all on Caleb Williams yet. But Justin, he did play really good against a trash defense in Dallas, mind you, a historically bad pass defense in Dallas, mind you. But, the thought did cross my mind. Am I going to be taking medicine on Caleb Williams in the next few weeks? And I'll tell you the big reason why, because Roma Dunze looks like a stud.
Oh, Roma Dunze is the real deal. He looked like opening drive Caleb, in week 1 against the Vikings. He looked like that pretty much for 4 quarters. And I think we had said that.
Yes, he did.
Like if like we've said that this kid's shown flashes at times. Even last year, he showed flashes. If he was ever able to be consistent with it, he could be a very talented quarterback. And again, the caveat is that it was the Cowboys defense. But he looked really good this past week. I mean, hey, I picked him up and played him in fantasy to replace Joe Burrow. He did well by me. I mean, he looked really good. And you know what? He's built some momentum, and he's going up against a Raiders team that is outside of when they played the Patriots, been torched by Jaden Daniels and Justin Herbert. And so who knows? He might have
Marcus Mariota, Justin.
Right. Exactly. Not even Jaden Daniels.
Not even Jaden Daniels.
Right.
Yeah.
So he might have a really good opportunity to build on that momentum and go out and have another big game in week 4.
Yeah. It will be, I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I still think it's fool's gold. I really do. I think what happened on Sunday was way more about the Dallas Cowboys than it was about the Chicago Bears. But it, there are a lot of guys drafted, if we're being fair, in the first round of the draft the last 10 years that couldn't even do what Caleb Williams did against a bad defense on Sunday. That's just the truth. A lot of these guys can't even play. So at least he showed something, but I still think it's fool's gold.
Caleb Williams might be hitting that, that point in approaching that situation where he'll be the guy that'll come out there and be able to beat up against bad teams and bad defenses, but he's never going to be able to put it together and go out there and consistently beat good teams and good defenses. Like that might be like the Caleb Williams ceiling, is that he's going to beat bad teams. He's going to lose to good teams. Just be
that's exactly what I think. That's exactly what I think he's going to be. Yeah. All right, let's take some victory laps, Justin. You can kick that off.
All right, I'll take a victory lap on the Jets. I said that I like the Jets to cover that game against the Bucks, and they almost outright won the game, but they did cover that game. That's the third game in a row that the Bucks have kind of won on a buzzer beater, so to speak. You know what I mean? They get kind of lucky. But
it game of inches.
It got kind of ugly at the beginning, and I think the Bucks went up like 2-3 scores, and I said, here we go. But the Jets battled back. They almost won the game, and I said I like the 6.5, and there you go.
You were lucky to get that cover. I'll be honest with you. And I'm saying that because the
punt block.
I like the Jets. I took the Jets. Yeah. We were lucky to get that cover.
Right. Yeah.
But it did work out. I'm going to take a victory lap on a take that goes way back to the draft, which is, if you listen to when we recorded on the draft, there was one player I said I absolutely didn't want the Patriots to take, and I didn't think he should be a first-round pick. And that is Ashton Jeanty. And if you look right now across the league, of all the running backs in the NFL that have gotten at least 40 touches through 3 games, Ashton Jeanty is next to last. I think he's averaging something like 2.5 yards a carry. The only one worse is Chase Brown, who, by the way, I almost took in the second round of my draft and thankfully didn't. But Ashton Jeanty, I'm sorry. Look, it's a lot different going against the NFL than it is going against the MAC or whatever Boise State is. And you look at his bowl game this winter against Penn State, he coughed the ball up a couple times. You can't get away with the same stuff in the NFL that you could when you were playing against subpar competition in a mid-major conference. When I was 13 years old, there was this kid that we used to play football with in our neighborhood, and he was like the Jerry Rice of our crew. But there was a difference, Justin. He was 15 and we were all 13 and 12, right? That's a big difference, right? Yeah. When you're playing, the competition you're playing against matters. Ashton Jeanty looked like a stud because he was that 15-year-old playing against the 12 and 13-year-olds. Yeah. He was a man playing against boys. Well, now he's in a league of men and it's not going well. I have a lot of doubts about him. I think the Raiders, for a team that had needs across that roster, to take him, I would be having major doubts about him if I was a Raiders fan right now.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be concerned about. Perhaps one of the biggest things to be concerned about is the fact that he's done actually virtually nothing in the passing game, right? And
nothing.
One of the kind of hypes about him was that, well, not only is he a great runner, but he's a great pass catching back as well. He can be a 3-down back. He can be used as a bell cow back. And if you're going to go and you're going to reach on a guy and take him as high as they did in that first round, he's not just a first round back. He is I think he's one of the highest running backs picked in recent memory.
He is.
Yeah, he is. And so if you're going to take a guy like that, he better be contributing both as a rusher and a receiver. And not only is he doing very little as a rusher, but he's done virtually nothing as a receiver. So when you get that type of return from a guy that you put that big of an investment in, it's tough to be optimistic about him.
Yeah. And running back is supposed to be the one position that, full pun intended, you can hit the ground running, right? It's like, and he really hasn't done that. So I think it's super concerning. Granted, that team, I think, sucks. And the offensive line probably isn't that good, but I just don't think you're seeing very much from him. Okay, Justin, I didn't throw this by, but I'm going to throw this out there in the interest of time. Instead of 3 into the future, why don't we do 2 for tomorrow? That way we can kind of keep it briefer. You got two for tomorrow?
For tomorrow. So tomorrow, what? For the Seahawks Cardinals?
Oh, just in general. I just mean just tomorrow is a general term about the future.
Okay. Oh, got you. I got you. All right. 2 for tomorrow. Yeah. The first one that I'm gonna do is I disagree with Matt about one of the things he said. I think a lot of people are thinking the way he is about the Rams and the Colts. But I think this Colts team is for real. I've been on them from the very beginning, dating back to the offseason. when you got a team that's as talented as this Colts team is, it's not going to be easy. It's not that I guarantee that the Colts are going to win, but I'm looking right now, 3.5 points. I think if the Rams win, it comes down to a field goal. I think the Colts are a great team. And as long as Daniel Jones doesn't come out and, totally crap himself, I think the Colts have a very good chance to win that game and definitely covered 3.5 points.
I mean, look, I think it's I come down more on Matt's side on this, to be honest, because I just feel like that Rams defense, I mean, that front seven is pretty good. They got a couple really good linemen, and I just see this as a game that if the Colts, this is a game you would expect the Colts to lose. But I will say this: if they go out and somehow win this game, then you better start taking them for real. That's for sure, because that would be a huge statement from Indianapolis if they can beat a pretty good Rams team on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, my number 2 for tomorrow. Look, my spot was already blowing up today, but I'm going to say it anyways because I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the Jackson Dart era is coming for the New York Giants, and I don't know if you saw the news this afternoon, but Dart is actually going to start this week against the Chargers, and I just think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. First of all, Russell Wilson is just not that good anymore. Second of all, he is the future, and I think he probably is a better quarterback from what we saw than Russell Wilson. And then third of all, I look back to what happened with Drake May last year in New England, and those first few weeks, I'm sorry, the Patriots missed opportunities that I think would have gotten Drake May valuable experience. There was no point in putting Jacoby Brissett out there. May needed those reps. He needed that experience, and the Patriots did not give it to him. I'm glad to see the Giants aren't going to make that same mistake. There's no point in sticking with Russell Wilson. The Jackson Dart era is upon us. It should be upon us, and I think that's a good thing.
I think it is too. I actually hated the fact that they sat him to start the season and went with Russell Wilson. I know that was always the game plan, but I never really understood it. Not only did Jackson Dart look really good, in the preseason, and the hype seemed to be real, but this is not an Anthony Richardson or a Trey Lance, a guy that has a season under his belt or is coming from, or coming from a weak conference. This is a 4-year college starter. 3 of which was spent in the SEC. Like, this guy has
more Jaden Daniels is what you're saying.
Exactly. This guy is he has been battle tested. He has experience, and I thought he was ready to come in and play. And if you were the Giants, I just didn't think you had much to lose. I mean, Daboll is really, I feel like, coaching for his job. I just thought you were so limited with the upside of Russell Wilson. Why not bring Jackson Dart out there in day one? I'm glad they're making the decision now, and they're not they're not waiting any longer.
It may be that the Giants are a worse team this year because of this decision, but I think if I'm a Giants fan, I'm totally okay with that because, I mean, you're trying to develop a quarterback, and I think there are a lot of quarterbacks coming out in the draft this year. The Giants are going to have another top pick. I mean, you need to know what you have in Jackson Dart. Get a good look at him and see if he is indeed the guy. And I'll say this, I said this on the podcast a few months ago. We did our NFL preview issue. I'm going to say it again. Watch out for this Giants team next year. If Dart is any good at all,
I agree.
And they're probably going to have another top 10 pick because of their schedule.
Yeah.
And they already got some really good building blocks in place. Okay, next one for you.
Look, we talked about this team in this game a little bit, a lot already, but I got to reiterate, I'm seeing right now, it just went down again, on ESPN. A few minutes when we were talking about this, the 49ers were 3.5 point favorites over the Jaguars. That line is down to 2.5 points.
Yep.
At the risk of falling into the same trap I did with Miami and Buffalo last week, I just don't see a world that the Jaguars are going to come out and beat this 49ers team. You know how much I hate Trevor Lawrence. I think he's such a bum. This 49ers team is on a roll. They're at home. This is what, a team that has proven to be a better home team than away team over the last couple of years. And the Jaguars are just so fake. I don't care whether it's Brock Purdy or Mac Jones. 2.5 points. I'll smash the 49ers all day.
Tough game on the road against a good team. These are the games we've been watching Trevor Lawrence lose for the last 4 years. I don't think it matters who the coach is. I don't think it matters who the receivers is or who anyone is. It's Trevor Lawrence. I agree with you. I like the Niners in this spot.
Yep. Easy call.
Oh, okay. My number two is the Baltimore Ravens were predicted to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and I still agreed. I mean, I don't necessarily disputing that they're a good team, but take a look at their schedule upcoming, and
Yeah.
it starts this week at the Chiefs. They host the Texans. They host the Rams. They got the Bears, Dolphins. That's a softball. They go to the Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers twice. Packers and end the season at Pittsburgh. They have a tough schedule. And my point is the Ravens are going to struggle to make the playoffs after a 1-2 start, even though they may well fix their defensive issues. I suspect they will. And they may well be one of the best teams in the American Football Conference. But I still think, in spite of that all, you look at that schedule and the way things are going for them right now, the tough start they had, I think they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. It's going to be tight for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, and like we said, if the Chiefs game goes how Matt predicted, they're going to be looking at a 1-3 start. Really tough to bounce back from that, right? Especially when the AFC is kind of as competitive as it is. I will say this though: if they're a wild card team, that's going to be one of the most dangerous wild card teams I can remember, right?
Well, 1,000%. And if you're Buffalo, man, you're just like,
Yeah.
you're just like crap, right? You don't want to see Baltimore again in your stadium. Like, you're going to run out of luck.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I agree. They do got a tough schedule coming up. And look, especially if they go out and they lose again, you could start seeing some real cracks in that locker room. That defense, it's really not a front seven issue. Although they didn't get any sacks last night on Jared Goff, but that might be more of a credit to the Lions offensive line. But it's the secondary. It's been the secondary for this Ravens team for the last few years. They need to figure it out because, look, you got Josh Allen, you got Justin Herbert, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got some real gunslingers in the AFC that you're going to have to get through. And even just these games now against like Aaron Rodgers, like that's not an easy game against Pittsburgh, these two games.
Yeah.
So,
It's not an easy game at all. And Justin, it's
yeah.
actually both. They're struggling against both the pass and the run now.
Right.
Like they got trounced last night by Detroit. They got trounced by David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs.
So yeah, you know what? It is an uphill battle for them. Just to play devil's advocate real quickly before we move on, I will say maybe that could be what this Ravens team needs is to overcome a little adversity, have their backs against the wall, have their butts kicked a couple times, have a chip in their shoulder. Because the last couple years, it just feels like they've been anointed one of the best teams. They finished with the high seed. They've kind of walked into the playoffs pretty easily. And they've continuously let down, even dating back to that Lamar Jackson MVP year when they were the number one seed and Vrabel and the Titans went and kicked their butts, right? That's been the issue with these guys. So maybe what they need is to struggle, barely make it out of the regular season and head into the postseason as a wild card with the chip in their shoulder.
Yeah, and I'm not down on them as a wild card team either. Like if the Ravens get into the postseason, even as a wild card, and it's worth mentioning too, like they could have a 9 or 10 win season and still win that division. Right. Because I don't think Pittsburgh's going to run away with it. The Bengals are look like they're dead in the water, and the Browns are the Browns. So a 9 or 10 win season might be enough for that Ravens team, and that division might be their saving grace. But I do think, I think you have to adjust expectations. I think in the postseason, that is the kind of team you wouldn't want to face if you're a Buffalo or LA Chargers or any of those teams.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll keep watching, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with them, especially if they fall in Kansas City next week.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that one of those teams will be 1-3 after this week.
Very crazy, and it makes you feel a little bit better about the Patriots, who could potentially be 2-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's end it on that. Let's wrap it up. Patriots Panthers this week, Justin. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say they're playing for their season, because if you don't win this game, you're going to Buffalo. I think it's a Sunday night game next week. That's a tough game. You're basically looking at another 1-4 start, which is just infuriating. This team starts so poorly the last few years, but then it's an uphill battle, and more or less, it's unlikely you're going to really be able to claw back into contention at that point.
I agree. And you know what? Look, I'm not buying. I'm not buying the hype with the Panthers 30-0 win last week. I think that was a total fluke. I still think the Panthers are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And even at the Patriots being 1-2, making all the mistakes they made last week, I still think they're a much better team. I think they're a much better team than we saw last week. And I think they're a team that's going to keep getting better as the season goes on. I think they go into into Carolina, and I think they win by 2 scores. They're
The game is in Foxborough.
I'm sorry. I thought it was in Carolina. Yeah. All right. So yeah, it's at home. They're 5.5-point favorites. Yeah, I would be shocked if the Patriots don't win this pretty handedly.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots have been a bad enough team that I don't think you can take anything for granted, but I do like them in this spot. I think that this is the game where I just feel like the Patriots are going to put it all together. I think they're building a lot of positive stuff in Foxborough, and it just kind of all fell apart. There were a lot of mistakes last week. Young team, inexperienced team, a team with a new coach and a lot of new players. Yep. I feel like this is an opportunity that they put it all together, and I think they will put it all together against Carolina. I like the Patriots. I like the Patriots minus the 5.5, and I think they get a much needed second win and really setting them up for probably a loss in Buffalo, and then a really easy stretch on their schedule where they might be able to stack some wins.
Exactly. Look, you win this game, even if you drop to Buffalo, you can go and beat New Orleans. You find yourself at 3-3. You'll be in a decent spot to continue to build momentum and give yourself a shot at the postseason.
All right, my friend. I think that's it. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
That about does it. Yeah.
All right. I want to thank everyone that listened to this episode of Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots Podcast. Have a great week. Be healthy, be well, be safe, and we'll catch you all next week.